Welcome back to the kitchen at Andersen Acres. Today we are going to make the cookie that really is the be-all and end-all of the cookie world. We are going to make shortbread. A lot of people think shortbread is really hard to make, but it couldn't be easier. There are really only 4 ingredients in the version I'm going to show you today. And if you happen to have a shortbread mold, which I don't right now because it's at my mom's house, but if you happen to have a shortbread mold, you can make it in a shortbread mold so you don't even have to roll out the cookie dough. I am going to roll and cut mine, but we will talk about shortbread molds for just a minute because I know someone's going, what's a shortbread mold? So what is a shortbread mold? Well, it's a simple clay or earthenware mold that you press your shortbread batter, your dough, into so that it bakes up nice and pretty. There are some newer pans made of metal instead of the earthenware, and some with nonstick coatings. If you like shortbread, it's well worth having one. I love the pan that I've got, but it's at my mom's. It's earthenware. It's a fantastic pan. Okay, it's fantastic. You can get them in different designs at most bakeware stores, and there's even more designs available online. If you're not into the mold, or you don't like the molds, or you don't make shortbread very often, it's probably not worth the investment. That's my oven preheating. Now, if you don't have a shortbread mold, or yours is at your mom's, you can roll out your dough on a lightly floured surface like I am going to do today, and then cut it with cookie cutters. Be gentle. You don't want it too thin, and then you want to bake it as directed. So I am going to use a roller and a cookie cutter, and then I'm going to bake exactly the same as I would if it were in a mold. So you can make shortbread, which is a butter-based cookie, with different flavors using this very recipe. Just substitute the vanilla. So we're using vanilla extract, but you can substitute the vanilla for a different one, lemon, mint, or even maple to start with. They're all delicious. You can even use natural food dyes to change the color of the dough to correspond to the flavor. Yellow might mean lemon, green for mint, and on and on. If you want to use dye, you would add it to the butter right now before we start. Okay, it won't blend as well later. So if you are using dye to dye your dough, this is the time to add it. Do what I did here and add a little well to your butter, pop the dye in there, and then you will get started. I'm not using dye today, so I'm not doing that. So let's get started making the actual cookie. First of all, you need half a cup of butter. Do not use margarine. Okay, do not use margarine. It does not work. Shortbread is butter-based. This is one of those times. Now, I don't care if you use margarine or not. However, this cookie does not turn out properly if you use margarine. Okay? This is one of those cookies you have to use butter. So, it is very, very easy to do this. Okay? Half a cup of butter. So, now we're going to add other ingredients. We are going to take a splash, just a bare splash, no more than a teaspoon of vanilla in there. And remember, if your dye was in there, it would be in there too. Take our little mixer and cream that butter up just a little bit. Okay, next up, we are going to add the sugar. This is not regular sugar. This is powdered sugar, also known as icing sugar, and 1/3 of a cup. Okay? Then we're going to mix that up. Cream it nicely. All right, that's all we're going to use the electric beaters for. Okay? At this point, we are going to add 1 cup of flour, and we are going to work it with our hands. We are not going to use the electric mixer. We're going to grab that butter and that flour and just start working a dough. Okay? Be gentle. Don't be like, bah, 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 bah. Because what you want is a nice soft dough. You don't want to overwork. So what I like to do, grab my butter and squeeze the flour into it gently. Okay? I like to squeeze and turn. and it will slowly come together as a dough. Now, this is a good time, well, I mean, not right now because you're mixing dough, but before you do your mixing or right after, to prepare your mold if you're using one. So when you're using your mold, you want to take a light cooking spray, just a light canola oil cooking spray, and spray it very lightly, very light coat. You can also brush it with a little bit of oil, or you don't want to make a cake goo because that won't really help you very much, but you want to do something. Okay. Now, a little thing about mixing cookie dough, if you notice it's really dry, you can go wet your hands a little bit, and the moisture from your hands will kind of permeate the cookie dough. But don't do that right off the bat. It's really tempting to do that. I know, because you think your dough is too dry, but sometimes you got to give it a minute to come together. Okay, like flip your dough over, work that dough gently. I'm going to turn my dough out onto my surface so you can see a little better. It's hard to see in the bowl. Okay, so you see how that's kind of crumbly still, right? We're still pretty crumbly. Okay, so what we want to do, and there's some dough in my hand. What you want to do is not add water to your hands yet, okay? Because yes, it'll help with the moisture content, but if you don't need it, don't use it, okay? So sometimes you do need that. If it's really dry out, you might be like, man, this is just too dry. I need a little more moisture happening here. And that's fine, but you don't want to do that before you have finished working your dough, okay? Because if you add moisture too quickly, you're going to be like, oh no, why is my dough so wet? So wait to add moisture, and only add moisture by adding a little bit of water to your hands and then working that in, okay? Because that's a little bit of water at a time. Don't like go grab half a cup or even a teaspoon or a tablespoon. A little water on the hands and then work that into the dough. Okay. Now this dough does not need to be refrigerated. Okay. And at this point, I can mold my dough. So if I did have my mold here, what you would do is form it into a decent ball. Okay. You'd form your dough into a decent ball, and then you would use your hands to gently press it into the mold. Okay, you would gently press that down into your mold. Okay, press firmly into the pan, work out from the center. Okay, work out from the center and press that nicely into your pan. Okay, until you don't have anywhere left to go. If you are using a roller, go slowly. Don't be smashing it down. And I'm using one of these rollers so I can't roll it too thin. I'm doing about 3/8 of an inch. You don't want to go too thin, because if you go too thin, you're going to end up with a cookie you're really not happy with. And I should put some flour on here, but that means walking over to where the flour is. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just not going to do it. So just gently, okay, give your dough a pat. Then you want to get yourself a thin spatula because you're going to need it, okay? Thin spatula, you're going to need it multiple times. Then I'm going to make butterflies. So you're going to get your cookie cutter straight down, no twisting. Okay, be gentle with your dough. Straight down, no twisting. Again, straight down, no twisting. And straight down, no twisting. Now this recipe will fill one shortbread mold, or it'll make, depending on how big your cookie cutter is, between 8 and 12 cookies. I like a decent sized shortbread cookie. I'm just removing them to my pan. Now my pan has a silicone liner to avoid sticking. Okay, don't use tin foil. Use silicone or use parchment paper. Wax paper is not going to help you at all. Wax paper smokes and melts. do not use wax paper. Okay? No wax paper. And these guys shouldn't spread too much. They're shortbread. So just be gentle. Okay, I'll roll the rest of them off camera, but there is one more step. Shortbread gets very annoyed. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my tray over. I am going to just get my dough over here for a second. Bring my tray over. Okay, there's the 4 cookies I've already cut out. I'm going to go over to my drawer and get a fork. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to use a fork to press into here. This helps the dough not bubble too much, and you can do a nice pattern or you can just prick, but I'm doing half a decent pattern here. Okay, and just do that with each cookie. Then we're going to put them, this prevents the formation of air bubbles. Put them in the oven for 30 minutes at that 325 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? 325, not higher. I know it sounds too low, but it's fine, I promise. So 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes until the dough is lightly browned, very lightly browned. If you're using a mold, you will notice that the cookie is pulling away from the sides of the mold, okay? The dough needs to be cooked throughout, or what's going to happen, especially if you're in a mold, it will not come out of the pan, okay? 30 minutes at 325. So we are going to do exactly that. All right, that's how they should look coming out of the oven. Now, you want to let them sit 10 minutes before you take them off the pan or out of your, at least 10 minutes, 10 to 20. Or at least, let them cool a little bit, especially if you're using a mold. So these have been sitting. I have not taken them off immediately. And this one is obviously just that little bit of extra dough. And they should come off nice and easy if they've been allowed to cool and retract. And if you're using a mold and they don't want to come out, turn your mold over and tap it a few times. Don't be tempted to pry it out. It will collapse. Okay, it'll come apart in pieces. This is very crumbly. That's kind of the point. Okay, so don't try to get it out of your mold just by prying it. Turn it upside down, give it a few taps. If it's not ready yet, turn it right side up again and let it cool some more. These come off after about the 10-minute mark, but your molds will not unmold until probably 15 to 20 minutes. So you're going to have to be patient. And then when you get them off, or you get them out of your mold, place them on a wire rack and allow them to cool completely. This is not a cookie designed to be eaten hot. Okay? Real shortbread is quite crumbly and is best if you let it cool completely. So we'll be right back. And there we have it. Delicious, beautiful shortbread cookies. Easy to eat and completely delicious. They really don't take much effort. You can do it in just a few minutes. It really is easy. I know they are intimidating when you think about it. Oh, I can't make shortbread. Yes, you can. Use a good quality butter. Remember your icing sugar. And remember just a splash of vanilla or other extract so that you enjoy the flavor. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Drop a comment below if you are going to attempt to make shortbread cookies at home. We'll see you tomorrow.